Sounds good. All right, well, now I'm going to ready up. And, okay. Is it counting down?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so in 10 seconds, we will begin. And, yeah, good luck. And, okay, let's go. So, as we're getting into this, again, everyone in Twitch chat right now, hanging out, knows all this stuff. We're going to be doing some commentary as if this were for a audience that is new to Peggle entirely. So I guess the first thing is, and I'm going to kind of be, Rich is a little under the weather, so for this test run, I'm going to be doing a good bit of the introduction. And the other thing to note is that in the submission that we're doing, we are also going to be submitting with a few other couch commentators that would be helping us with the commentary as well. Namely, I believe the idea is we would have SatanHerself and Oz, I think was the plan, right?
Yeah, and maybe...
And then maybe like Dewolf and Helios maybe as backups or other commentators, potentially. So... yeah. So we have me, PoetryStud, and then Britshaw here. Both top 5 runners of both Peggle Deluxe and Peggle Knights, which are the 2 main entries in the series. So I guess, I don't know, if we were kind of talking about this game to a completely new audience, right? The first thing is like, well, just how is the gameplay generally? Well, it is, I mean, I feel like the thing is there's a lot of people who probably are familiar with Peggle from like their childhood or whatever. There's a good bit of nostalgia for this game in certain online sectors, right?
Yeah, I feel like plenty of people have heard of it or played it at some point.
Yeah, it's not like a super niche series for sure, but yeah, the idea is, for anyone who doesn't know, that there are a bunch of levels in the game, and it's kind of an arcade-style game, right? A mix of like elements of pinball and like Palinko and other stuff. And so the idea is to traditionally you would try to get as high of a score as possible. That was kind of the initial intent of the game. But in a speedrunning sense, we are trying to clear each level in the game, clear the whole kind of main story of the game, if you could call it that, as quick as possible. And each level, the way you finish it is by clearing all of the orange pegs. You have anything to add to that? Did I miss any core mechanics?
No, that's pretty much it. That's the way you play the game.
Yeah, and but no, the reason that this game actually works pretty well, at least in my opinion, as a speedrunning game, is because there is, for one, it's a thing that is, it's just a fun game to play, like, casually, but, there's a good element of, like, randomness to it, right, and a good element of luck in terms of getting good bounces on the oranges and throughout the level, just getting lucky shots. But there's also quite a bit of skill that goes into it, and it's quite telling that, for instance, the top runner of the game, Panaha, is multiple, in a game that is, well, at the highest level, roughly an hour long. It is telling that the top runner, Panaha, from Finland, is minutes quicker than second out of thousands of runs of the other top players. No one has gotten even close to him, and it's not like it's a lucky thing. He has gotten consistently runs that quickly, and yeah.
The once peaceful air is now turning thick with tension at the appearance of such intense Pokemon.
Thank you, Sosa.
Let's see. And yeah, so
yeah, I should. So one of the key things that you were touching on there is about the randomness aspect, where the generation is always different. So that makes it so every time you do a level, it's always slightly different. You can't have the exact same strategy every single time.
Exactly, yeah. Lots of times people often ask, I've had lots of people ask, like, is a like, couldn't you just solve the game, right? And the thing is, as far as a speed run, maybe for, again, like going for points or like in the more traditional sense of the game, but as far as like speed running, there are certain layouts that are going to be much quicker than other ones. And the layout is never going to be, well, I mean, you might get the exact same layout in a rare situation, but you're not going to remember exactly what you did or be able to replicate exactly what you did. The idea is every run is going to be different with how each level plays out. There are certain levels that are going to be harder in general, but sometimes certain levels will kind of unexpectedly give you problems. Certain levels might be easier than you expected, and yeah, it is kind of adapting to the RNG, like Parker has said in my chat.
But there is one way that you can help each level, or most levels, which is openers.
Yeah.
And I'm currently on 2-1 now, and I just use the opener that PoetryStud made, which is where you could explain it maybe.
So throughout the game, you know, to make the game be more consistent, the community has, over the past year and a half, 2 years or so, started to come up with what we just call generally strats, just strategies in general, of shot strats, or different shots. There's a bunch of different names that we use, to more consistently start levels. Generally, they're going to be just starter shots on a level, because at a certain point, once you've had a bunch of bounces around, you aren't going to necessarily be able to predict exactly which shots, like which pegs are going to be left on the board to be cleared. But you are able at the start of a level, especially when everything is starting, you know, the same as far as the actual placement of the pegs, right? There's no guarantee that any of the ones that the strat hits are going to be oranges, but you can still kind of clear up parts of the level and hit, most likely, some oranges to get a good start to the level. So that is something that all the top runners pretty much do. And even the ones who don't use that many strats, there are a few levels where it is just kind of not really necessary, but it just is such a time save to use certain strats on certain levels that it has become almost necessary if you really want a good time. But certainly it's kind of ironic that there are certain strats that are kind of memes in the community because they're maybe a little over the top. And yeah, we'll see one of those later in the run. But yeah, one thing I should mention, kind of while we're in the early part of the run, there are, because this is something that a lot of, I think, speedrun fans of speedrunning will wonder about, is like, as far as glitches or skips or anything like that, there's no major skips in the game, as far as being able to like skip whole portions of it. There's 55 levels, right? And so we are currently on the 9th level. I'm on 2-4. Actually, where are you at, Richard?
2-4 as well.
Okay, yeah, so pretty even pace, as you'd expect.
I just had my opener ruined by the power that I have, which is Jimmy.
Yes. Yeah, I guess that's one thing we should mention, is that beyond the board being mainly about clearing the orange pegs, each of the Peggle masters, which are the characters at the top middle, each have different powers. So as we're going here, so Jimmy Lightning is the one that we are both currently playing as. In adventure mode, on a new save file, you don't get to choose your character, but if you do, there is a decent bit of competition of playing the game with specific characters and stuff like that. But Jimmy Lightning,
because of the opener being ruined.
Yeah, so that'll sometimes happen. So Britchshaw has a lost level. This is one of those levels, though, that yeah, definitely the openers help with consistency. And having them get messed up, for instance, by Jimmy Lightning's power can do that. So Jimmy Lightning,
such a strong opener because it clears such a big chunk of the level.
Yeah, and so Jimmy Lightning's power, for instance, is that, well, as you've probably seen a few times now, when you hit the green peg, there is a second ball that pops out of that spot, and it can be actually quite powerful for clearing levels quickly, but there's no guarantee that it's ever going to be useful with Jimmy.
Yeah, the powerful thing about it is the fact that it's two balls that are both doing things at the same time.
Exactly, yeah.
Instead of like you shooting twice.
Yeah, and so we'll see later in the run, there are characters that are generally considered far better overall, and I would definitely agree that Jimmy's not my favorite, but he is he can be useful, and for speedrunning specifically, he's not the worst. So I am on the next level, 2-5. This one is kind of notorious because it is somewhat difficult, especially for this early on in the speed run. It is where a lot of runs die, especially I feel like for just starting out as a runner. I had lots of issue with this one. So it looks like I'm probably about to lose this one. So we're probably there we go.
Now on it, and one of the things about it is it has a because the greens are always usually like in random spots, but this one has one green that is always in the same spot, and it's in a useless spot that you can't get much help from, which is the top right.
Yeah, the green in the top right there is guaranteed to be in that spot, and for Jimmy's power, it is kind of useless there. And there's actually some, it's interesting. There is a whole subset of the Peggle speedrun community that has taken the time to analyze stuff like that, like level generation and the rules for where things can and can't be generated, right? There are certain spots that oranges can and can't be generated, and it's really quite interesting. I do not know as much about the technical side of thing like that, but it has helped in developing a lot of the strats we were talking about earlier.
I'm now on cat.
Okay, so you're actually ahead of me then, so yeah.
Yeah. But his power extends the edges of the free ball bucket for extra bounces and last second reprieve. It's subtle, but it can really help you out.
Yeah, and Bradshaw is kind of memeing on the dialogue that the character uses in the game. So I kind of started to mention earlier, and then got distracted. But one thing is, as far as to kind of, while we're still early on in the game, to kind of clear up about glitches and skips. There are no major skips. You have to do all 55 levels in the main any percent category. But what is interesting is that one of the other top runners of the game, Braspy, actually did find a way to save a few seconds over the course of a run, which is that between levels, and actually in a second, once I finish this level, I'll show an example. Between levels, there is generally a little bit of character dialogue that pops up from the Peggle masters. But what's really interesting is that there is a way to reliably and consistently skip that. So here, I'll beat this level without doing the quote-unquote dialogue skip.
We've both been using the dialogue skip so far, so you wouldn't have seen the dialogue.
Yeah, so if I click the button, the next level button normally, a little dialogue box pops up, and generally you have to take just like maybe a split second to click on that to get to the next level. But what is really interesting, and it's quite funny because it was under the radar for a long time, even though it's right there in plain sight, you can actually skip that, and on this next level I will show it. And from now on, just know that whenever
it's such a simple skip, but it's just
whenever we
took this long to sort of find it.
Yeah, and the way you do it is by simply, instead of clicking left click on the dialog box, you click both left click and right click, or any other, or you can also do, I believe, middle mouse plus another key. Basically, you do multiple mouse buttons, and for whatever reason, that kind of short circuits the code that takes you to the next level. Which is really funny. And so again, it takes, maybe saves a second or less per level, but that adds up, especially when you're trying to kind of go sub 1 hour or sub some other barrier, and all every second.
Because it saves about a second each level, which doesn't seem like much, but then you add that up throughout the whole run, and that's like a whole minute of time save potentially. Yeah.
Another thing, real quick, that I'll mention is as I was beating this level, 3-2, I was getting towards the end of the level and didn't have that many balls left, and was in a rough situation. But one thing you can kind of rely on in this game is the the multiplier. The way this is something that works in both casual play and in speedruns to your advantage, which is that the more you clear of the oranges in the level, the thing you actually need to continue, the more every peg is worth in points. And if you fill up the bar on the left, you get a free ball back. It's the only way of getting a ball back, except for also getting it into the bucket, right? And so by sort of playing smart at the end of the level, especially when the multiplier for points is high, you can actually get a lot more balls back than you do at the start. You start with every level with just 10 balls, right? But you can get a lot more than that back from free balls, and that is generally going to be very, very helpful, especially on tougher levels. We'll see some levels later in the game where that can be the life or death difference. So
yeah, so when you get to times 10 on the multiplier, there's only three or less orange pegs left to hit. You only have to hit the point boost once, and you can just hit 4 blue pegs and get a free ball back. So it's really powerful.
Yep, the point boost being the pink peg, because I don't know if you mentioned that earlier, but yeah. Yeah. And so, also, just for submission purposes, just for if there are moderators of GDQ are watching this, this is a good time in the run where we're kind of getting into the meat of it, where we could probably have, like, donations be read out. This would be a good time, sort of towards the end of Cat's Hut. We've had a good chance to explain all the basics, I think, right? And so, like, this level here, it's a bit of a tough one. I'm on 3-4. What about you? Well, which level are you on, Britshaw?
I'm on 3-5. I just did a pixel shot on that one. Do the opener, which is this very strong opener, which gets this whole slide.
Yeah. But yeah,
we used to all use a tap opener, but then then there was a pixel shot found, which means you don't have to. Because with that one, you have to do L9, then L9 again, and that takes a bunch of time. Whereas just finding this one pixel gets you that whole shot in one.
Yeah. So what Bridgeshaw's talking about is that pixel shot versus. It kind of might sound like gibberish if you're not familiar with the terminology. I failed 3-4. It's a bit of a tough one. So the terminology when we to kind of get into like the kind of higher level strategies and stuff. There are, when we talk about the strats, the shots that we can take that are good, the openers, level openers. Generally, there's a few types. The most common type, and the one that I really prefer as a runner, this is where it gets a lot into personal preference and different running styles. The one that I prefer is tap shots, where it's actually pretty common with a lot of speedruns. You want to find things that normalize the setups, right? So that you get the same result every time without having to rely on like luck or anything as much. And so, in the case of this game, one of the normalizing strategies you can use, it looks like I'm going to make it through this time on this level. So yeah, we both, by the way, just to cut myself off real quick, we both have had, let's see, I've had 2 fails and you've had 1, right? So that's actually, that's one of the things is that like in both of our PBs, we have no fails, but getting a no-fail run is a very...
In my current PB, I have 1 fail.
Okay, yeah. So, but either way,
my PB before used to have no fails.
Yeah, the thing is, like, fails in this game are actually pretty common, even at a high level. It's
fails is where all your time loss, like a big chunk of time loss, will come. You pretty much are losing a minute to a minute and a half when you fail.
Exactly, yeah. So, and that is where even the best runner, even the best runners in the game, for instance, like Panaha, the world undisputed world champion of Peggle, is he loses levels all the time and loses runs to that all the time. It is it's not like it ever stops being a thing. The game is actually fairly hard to consistently beat with no fails. I don't know of anyone who has managed to.
People are grinding, they'll often like reset once they get to a fail. They usually feel like that's where they've just had this big chunk of time loss and they can't bring it back.
Exactly, yeah. So obviously for this run we are not resetting, but just know that most like at this point, both of us would have reset these runs, if we were grinding for PB on leaderboards. But anyways, we were talking about strat shots. So the difference between strats. So one of the normalizing things in this game that I was kind of starting to talk about is that when you aim near the top of the screen on the left or right side, there's a certain point where it stops moving any further. So what you could generally do is use that to your advantage, because you know that doing a top right or top left shot is going to be shot in the same exact angle, the same spot every level, every time on a level. And what you can do is, luckily, you can use the arrow keys or also the scroll wheel on a mouse to actually move by small increments. And normally you would use that to just kind of fine-tune shots, and generally I do use it for that purpose too as well. But you can also do taps to move it by a specific amount. And so when we say tap shots, lots of times we'll say like R9 or L10. And L10, for instance, would mean go to the left side, and in this case I'm actually about to do on L5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 taps on the left.
I'm on 4-4, and the one I just did was L4 -0.
Yeah, and so those are tap strats where you're going to get the same output, the same result every time. And I say the same result every time.
But the key thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say the key thing about the openers as well is that you get a bucket timing with them. So it means that you can land in the bucket after you've opened up the level, which makes it really helpful.
Yep, even having just one extra free ball starting a level, right? Think about it like this: if you clear like 20 pegs on a level and get a free ball guaranteed every time, that is one less ball one more ball and 20 less pegs that you need to worry about now. It just helps for consistency. So that's the first type of shot. The more kind of advanced type of shot, the one that I personally try to avoid when I can in favor of the more consistent tap shots, are pixel shots. So pixel shots, and then also kind of glint shots, I would say, are a subset of that, where you can use elements of the background of levels of the art, or also elements of or like parts of certain pegs or bricks to get a specific shot. And this is where I should mention that, like, for both of these types of shots, taps and pixel shots, one of the biggest things that is a challenge with these is that levels like the one I'm on, 4-3, or the one that actually, which one are you on, Rich, right now? Are you on
4-5? Okay,
yeah. One thing that can get in the way of those strats working is moving parts. Moving pegs are generally going to mess with the consistency of strats like that. So, for instance,
that
the level
messes with all types of strats.
Yeah. So, like the level I'm on, 4-4, has these spinning bricks. There are some shots that people use on this level, but generally they are going to not be able to consistently clear the stuff in the middle. They're mostly going to focus on clearing the stuff on the sides that are not moving, since those are going to be more consistent.
And the strats that people have to find on levels of moving pegs are ones that hopefully avoid them, that don't touch them, so then the opening doesn't get ruined by the inconsistency of moving.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So again, for at a meta commentary level, this is a good spot where I would say we kind of explain a lot of the basics. We could take like another dono break if this was an actual race at GDQ.
I could explain the current master I'm using and why this master is terrible for speedrunning.
I'm
currently on Claude, and Claude makes a flipper on each side of the screen show up. And
very pinball-inspired character, which is fun if you're playing casually. By the way, I will mention.
Yeah, it's great for like if you're trying to rack up score or just need help beating the level. but when you're speedrunning, it puts these giant flippers in the way, which can really get in the way when you're trying to land the ball quickly. You can get to your next shot and all that. And they also take up, like when you you want to get ready to shoot the ball for the next shot, but they're flipping when you hit shoot, so that can also be a hindrance.
Yeah. So yeah, Claude is
also messes up bucket timings for openers.
Yes, Claude is notoriously a nuisance, especially at a higher level of play.
Which is why there's been a lot of since there are individual master runs you can do where you only use one singular master, it's become like a meme to do Claude only runs.
Yeah. Okay, so I just barely beat 4-5, so I'm kind of hanging in with you, but you definitely have a bit of a lead over me.
Yeah, but I am quite behind my PB pace. Like I'm 5 minutes behind that, so
yeah,
it's hard,
that's fine.
It's hard in a race to stay with such a strong pace, but
yeah. And so that's one thing to note is that like we are definitely already both out of PB contention, but that is to be expected in a race where to get the PBs that Britshaw and I have both gotten, we have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours grinding.
Yeah,
so
lots of resetting and all that.
Yeah, so yeah. And yeah, as we're kind of getting again to kind of just as at a meta commentary level, this is definitely another good part of the game where we could probably have some dono reads. We've explained a lot. The Claude levels definitely don't have much going on. Largely just about getting through them in the end.
Yeah,
these are not really my favorite
section.
Levels. Yeah, a bit of a slow section. Not my favorite levels in the game. But yeah, but I do find it. I will say
the next section is also pretty slow, to be fair as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the next couple sections of the game are a little slow. I definitely prefer the next one after Claude because it's at least a little more interesting, but also a little slow. So, yeah, I will say though, I don't know, Peggle definitely has a surprising amount of just like replayability in the sense that if you're into this type of gameplay in general, obviously it's not going to be for everyone, but personally, I don't know, for me, I find it quite satisfying to kind of almost like solve the levels, almost like they're a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I think if you're into this style of gameplay, speedrunning it definitely gives it a lot of replayability, a lot of because it's going to be different every time, and in the end, the basic skills you're training of like seeing good shots ahead of time, playing efficiently, but also playing smartly and efficiently. It's going to be something that I think if you're into the style of gameplay is just going to be satisfying to do over and over again.
Yeah, and it's nice that it's such an accessible game that like anybody could speedrun it if they wanted to.
Yep, that's another thing, right? Is that this game is quite accessible. Yeah, in fact, actually, this would be a good time to talk about the reason that Peggle speedrunning has had sort of a boost recently, and the reason that both myself and Britshaw got into it in the first place. Do you want to talk about the Peggle Prophet, as he's now been called?
I'm trying to survive on 5-4.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Lost.
That's okay. I think probably now we're a little more even then because I'm still behind. What level did you fail on?
5-4. It was quite.
Okay,
it was hard to survive because the pegs are weirdly shaped, so it's hard to get free ball shots. Yeah,
it's kind of ironic because that level is one of the ones that if it goes well, it can go really well, but if it goes bad, it can be
strong. It clears so much.
Yeah. So I'm one level behind you still. So you're still. Well, now I'm probably going to catch up a little bit, but. Okay, so I'll talk about it then while I don't want to flood you.
I will just say though that this is why it makes for a good race because just like people can keep losing back and forth and that gives the other person a chance to catch up.
Yeah, and again, the thing is it in a race situation it is very common to have fails. No one even top runners. are generally going to have a couple fails in a live race situation where you can't reset. That's just kind of the nature of the game, but yeah. So I did want to say, though, I wanted to give a shout out to the one who got myself and many others recently into the Peggle speedrunning community, which is Doug.
Yeah, I think I briefly mentioned him, or maybe not.
Yeah,
but either way, yeah, Doug is the guy that I saw.
Yeah.
Like I knew about Peggle before seeing Doug, but I didn't realize that speedrunning was a thing for Peggle.
Yeah. And so Doug is obviously a much bigger online presence than any other Peggle speedrunner, and has kind of brought it to a little more attention. Obviously, the Peggle games themselves are decently popular, have been decently popular since they came out. But as far as speedrunning goes, definitely that's where for a lot of people the story started. Like for myself, I would not have gotten into the game speedrunning wise if not for Doug. So I do want to give a personal, I guess, shout out. And I know Britshaw's the same way, and many others in the community. So it is funny. A lot of the top runners now started because of Doug and have now. Well, I don't want to throw shade, but a lot of us have surpassed him, at least for now. But he is still a good player. And again, it's the credit goes to him for a lot of the community's success.
I'm on 6-1. I just got the free slides with the pixel shot.
Okay, yeah. So Britshaw is on a more exciting level than the one I'm on. I'm on 5-5 still. And is 6-1 is beyond basically being like the halfway point in the game. So halfway done now.
The halfway point is 6-3. But
yeah. So but beyond that, we let's see. 6-1 and a few of the Renfield levels have some interesting stuff going on where we, as a community, so I'm about to do the same shot.
You don't use the pixel shot, do you?
Actually, yeah. So technically my shot is a little different. This is one where, and I messed it up, so I'm going to restart the level, which is a viable strat.
Yeah.
This shot here is one where you can get actually a pretty reliable setup to do what I just did, which is to get 2 full levels of the of this 3-tiered level cleared, right? And so that's obviously, if you can get that pretty consistently. Sometimes you only get 1.5, sometimes you get 2 like I did here with the setup I use. There's also a setup where if you can get the timing right, which you can practice and stuff, the one that Britshaw used got all 3. And so it's a bit harder to get, but and harder to set up, but he did it, and thus probably saved a good 20 seconds over me. The one I use is also pretty good, but this goes to show how different styles of shots, right, might be higher risk, but have higher payoff.
Yeah, because your strat is much easier to set up, but it doesn't. You have much less chance of getting what I got. Whereas the one I set up has a lot more chance of getting all 3 slides if you get the right timing.
Exactly, yeah. And so as we're moving on, we're both now on Renfield. Renfield is an interesting character. His levels aren't that super interesting, I would say. Most of them are just kind of like a bunch of random pegs strewn everywhere. But his power is actually, I don't know, it's one of the more interesting ones.
Yeah,
and I'll actually show it in a second.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be as interesting. Like, it's already interesting enough where the idea is that you fall down to the bottom, and once you go into the the abyss, I guess, you come back down from the top of the level and hit everything again. Yeah, and so that's his power in a nutshell. But what's interesting is that at least in this game, there the other main Peggle game that people run, Peggle Knights, is not necessarily the same way. But at least in this game, his power has a bit of kind of like, I guess you could say, aim assist to it, where it's kind of a bit random how much it actually helps. But there are some cases where when you get the power and then it comes for the second go around, it kind of will tilt the ball maybe a little bit towards a new area, like it actually did for me here.
and clear a lot of new stuff on a new part of the map, the board.
The idea is it's trying to tilt the ball in a way that it will get the most points it can with falling down from that point.
Yeah, and so sometimes you might get a little unlucky and it might get, like, nothing. But other times you, like on this level, I cleared a few oranges and stuff blocking other oranges. That would have been quite annoying to dig down to, right? So it's saving me a bit of time.
Yeah.
Although, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, it's similar to another character you'll see later, which is Master Who, that is pretty much like an aimbot type character that tries to go for points. But with that one, you can actually aim where you want it to start, whereas with this one, it falls down from the top of the screen, wherever it falls down, and you don't have really much control over that. So.
Yeah, so here's a good example where I used it to my advantage. I was getting close to the end of the level. I did not have enough balls left over to really feel comfortable about it. So what I did is I had a green left, and so I basically relied on Renfield, the pumpkin, his ability to, I was like, okay, let's take a gamble. I went for the green instead of going for any like specific other shot. And it paid off. He got me like multiple free balls on points because he kind of tweaked the ball into a much better path on the second go around.
Yeah, I had to do that on 6-2. I had like 1 or 2 balls left, and I hadn't hit both greens, so I hit a green and it hit the other green.
Yeah.
By 6-7, and that pretty much helped me save the level.
Yeah, I can hear you tapping, and I'm pretty sure you're on 6-5, if I had to guess. So 6-5 is really fun. There's a shot that I managed to find on that level that I will show, and that Britshaw is currently using. It sounds like that gets. Okay, yeah, yeah. There's some cool. There's actually quite a few different cool strats and shots on that level, where they can clear like quite a bit of the slides of the level in a pretty satisfying way. That's one thing that I think is really cool, is a lot of the strats are just super satisfying when they work out, because in some cases the strats will quite literally clear like half the level for you. And like in the case of the first Renfield level, the triple slide. So yeah, so here I'll see, I have a good setup for it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So first shot is L5 -3. So left with 10 taps, bucket moving at -3, which is a whole separate notation we haven't really had a chance to talk about. But the second shot is quite easy. You literally just shoot full left, no taps needed, and it doesn't look like it's going to be that good, but then it bounces in there, actually clears out the whole bottom slide. Then there's a few follow-up shots as well. That's the main benefit of that one. So how did that one go? Are you on to the next set?
Yeah, I'm now
level?
on to Chula.
Okay, yeah.
1.
And so again, yeah, if any GDQ moderators are watching this far into the run, this would be another spot where we could probably have more donation readouts, because at this point, just kind of getting into the meat of the game, right? The Tula levels normally are going to be pretty fine. Some of the more fun levels in the
straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, there is a reason that we can point out maybe that on the next level I'm about to go to.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, just in general, this would be a good time of the run to do donations if this were an actual run. Yeah, let me know when you're there, and then you can explain.
I'm on 7-2 now.
Okay. So there's a meme in the community. Well, you know, anytime you have a game like this where it's just got kind of a niche community, I feel like you're going to have like just internal memes pop up. And one of the ones that the community has settled on is that the caterpillar on the next level, the one after the one I am on, that Britshaw, it sounds like, is on. The caterpillar, for whatever reason, actually a friend of mine decided one day that the caterpillar's name should be Huey, and the name has stuck. So now the entire community calls him Huey, and whenever a run gets to that point, it is considered a blessed run, because most runs die before this point. We're getting into the, mid towards the late game, right? And most runs have died at this point. If you have a run make it to this point, you're out of kind of, at least what I would call the most boring part of the run, at least. There are quite a few spikes in difficulty yet to go. So certainly it's not getting easier from here. But I find it at least it gets more interesting after this point. Would you agree, Rashad?
Yeah, well, like the Huey thing was like a whole like joke, like you made the interesting point after it became a thing, which was that like after Huey, kind of that's the point where everything gets a bit harder. Like that's
Huey's
yeah.
Huey's kind of like the last. Yeah, Huey's kind of like the last free level as well. And I say free, obviously, occasionally you'll lose this one too, but this level is not nearly as bad as the one directly after it, and the one directly after that, and so on. And while those ones are more fun and more interesting, yeah, certainly, again, the difficulty does start to ramp up here as well. So it's both a blessed run if you get to this point. Yeah, it's both a blessed run if you get to this point in a run, but also this is where you start to have issues. And yeah, Tula's power, by the way, is so this is Huey the caterpillar here in the background. I've revealed him fully now. The Tula's power, this is a tough one immediately after. Tula's power is one of the strongest ones in the game, if not the strongest power. Well, it's debatable depending on the playstyle and everything. But regardless, so her power rather, is that when you hit a green, it clears, I believe it's 20% of the remaining orange pegs.
I don't remember what the stats are because they're different for knights.
Yeah, it's slightly, it depends, but which game in the series you're playing.
Brass probably knows if Brass is in our chats.
Yeah, we have Brassbeat is one of the most technically talented and knowledgeable Peggle speedrunners in the whole community for sure. Another top runner who I don't believe, if this does go to GDQ, I don't believe, unfortunately, he will be able to attend. But he is the one who found the dialogue skip that we talked about earlier. That is the only relevant skip to this run. There is technically another skip that was actually found by me. Oh no! Okay. Ooh, sorry, just had a little moment there. No, okay. Ooh, so that level can be a little tough. Ooh, okay, I was not worried at all. Yeah, that level, quite a tough one.
Yeah.
So Tula's power of clearing just a portion of the remaining orange pegs is good for a couple reasons. For one, I mean, the whole point of the game is to clear all the orange pegs. But specifically, there's kind of another benefit you might not think about. Beyond the surface level obvious benefit, it means that your multiplier is going to go higher quicker. So earlier in the level, you're going to be able to get more points and more free balls from points multiplication. Additionally, her ability clears. Sorry, I just had to focus on it. This is another tough level here. Her ability, additionally, also the green pegs that activate her ability. When you pop them, the orange pegs it clears are specifically the ones that are the closest. What you can do is if you have a really hard to reach orange, you can leave it to the end of the level and leave a green, and again, it pops about, I think, 20% of the remaining oranges, but minimum of one. So if you have one really hard to reach orange, you can leave a green, and once you've cleared everything else except for that one, and you can end the level by hitting the green instead. So there's some interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna add you saying that about only one in Knights. The thing is that it's two.
Yeah.
Which makes us stronger in Knights.
Exactly. In Peggle Knights, the other main speedrun, the other main game that is speedran by the community, then there is her ability is actually even more powerful, and it is already one of the more powerful ones. So, personally, one of my favorite runs is to do Tula the Sunflower in Knights. One of my favorite runs.
I just lost 8-1 because of a very silly free ball bounce.
Okay, so you lost 8-1. I'm gonna catch up then because I'm about to be on 8-1. Well, catch up in the sense that we're even now, but yeah. This level here is a pretty tough one. I myself, as well as several others, have developed our own proprietary strats. Is that the word? You know, we all, like, a lot of us, to count, a lot of us have developed separate strats for this level because it is such a what's the word? It's it's kind of an awful level. It's the thing is, and well, I think this is the thing for any like speedrun game at a high level. You know, the people who are the best at it and who play it the most also probably hate it the most. Simultaneously hate and love it the most. This
hard
run,
level to be fast on as well.
Yeah, this one is even in my PB, I think I spent like 1.5 minutes on this.
Yeah.
Generally, to put in perspective,
a minute on it.
Yeah, to put in perspective, this game has 55 levels, and the world record is about was it 52 or 51?
Yeah,
something?
52 at the moment.
52, right? So, on average, the very best runner in the world still spends a little under a minute on each level. And the thing is, with that though, there are some levels that are going to go very quickly. There are some levels you can clear in 30 seconds sometimes, right? But then there are other levels like the last one that we just saw that are that can take again like 1.5 minutes, and that would still be okay, right? And at worst they could take longer, or well, like what happened to Britshaw. He spent like a good minute or so on it, and then failed it and had to do it again.
Right
anyway.
at the end, with like I only had 1 ball and 2 pegs left, and it's just if I landed in the ball bucket, I would have been fine.
Yep, and that happens.
Between me and losing like 1.5 minutes of time.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is that's what happens in this game when you speedrun it. So, I am not doing great on the next one actually, on 8-2. Let's see if I can
just
manage
finished 8-2.
Yeah, I think I might be okay. I'm probably gonna have to free-ball skill it a bit. Which one? I don't know about this one. Hold on. I
guess we haven't mentioned the like power that we have right now, which is Warren Rabbit, which is also sort of a meme character.
Yeah, definitely a meme in the community.
Yeah, but yeah, this character gives you this wheel that spins,
I lost.
and you get one of the things that. I'm sorry to hear that, but
That's good.
yeah, it gives you one of the 4 things that are on that wheel, which means you get a random power from each time you hit a green.
Yeah, as I just and you can kind of skip the animation of the wheel playing by clicking through it.
Yeah,
but
that's a little bit of
but
time,
yeah. So I got triple score here, which is not useless, but also not great.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that you can also get some of the other characters' powers from the wheel.
That will always be the bottom option.
Yeah.
There'll be a random one of the different masters. And also, what's interesting in any percent is that you don't get Cinder and Who's powers, the 2 masters coming up, because you haven't unlocked them yet in any percent.
Well, is that the case? I thought you could, but maybe that's only in New Game Plus where I've seen that.
Well, in New Game Plus you do get them, but like,
yeah, but okay. I didn't actually know that. That's something I learned.
I'm pretty sure it's that way.
Yeah, I thought, because I'm pretty sure in Knights that isn't the case, but it might. But yeah. Anyways.
Does Brass
yeah, that'd be a question for Brassmead here. We have in the chat. Obviously, we wouldn't have him in a live run setting, but okay. So I'm on 8-3, which is, I would say, another one of the kind of levels at this point in the game that can be a little bit of a luck draw here.
Yeah, it can be a run killer level.
Yeah. For sure. This is one where, and again, yeah, at this point, let's see, I guess we both had like 3 or 4 losses, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's about what we kind of expected to probably have at this point in time. Ideally, I mean, again, if we were actually grinding for PB, both of us would have reset long ago.
Yeah, I'm behind my PB by 10 minutes right now.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Let's see. I will say, just this is meta. This is not really. Obviously, this is something that we wouldn't say in an actual race. But this is it's probably going a little slower than I expected, even. So maybe when we submit, we should say expected time like 1:15 probably. But we're both on pace for about an hour 15 right now, I would say, or an hour 10 if we don't lose anymore.
My current pace is 1:07 if I don't lose.
Okay, yeah. That's if we don't lose, and we'll talk about why that's maybe not likely in a bit. So we're coming up with some of the we're coming up on some of the
Although I guess the thing is, in my PB, I did lose on the fabled level that you would normally lose on.
Yeah, which I won't spoil yet.
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah, we'll get to it soon.
I'm on Cinder now. So
okay, yeah, so I'm a couple levels behind you still. But again, this is the thing about a race like this, is actually it is Britcher has a decent lead over me, right? About like a level and a half, it seems. But it could still go out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
this is another good
a few levels, like use a level or two, you instantly have a chance to get ahead of me.
Yep. Yeah, this is another spot in the run where we could probably have, again, like donations being read if this were actually at the event. Where we're kind of just tearing through a few of these.
But do you think we should explain each master, like its power? Because right now I just use Cinder.
Yeah, we can explain it, but I mean we don't have to do that, right? We can do. Right, we don't have to do it right away, right? Because obviously people are gonna be able to see what's going on too. So, but so like, Cinder Bottom. You wanna take a stab at Cinder?
Yeah. So I had a really solid 9-1 there because of power.
Yeah.
So he has one of the strongest powers in the game, which is you shoot a fireball, and the thing is, it doesn't care about what pegs are in front of it. It would just hit everything and just go straight through them. So in a speedrun, that's really powerful. It doesn't need to like bounce around constantly and all that.
Yeah. One of the biggest things about speedrunning this game is that, if you're playing casually and the way the developers kind of intended, which was like it was meant to be an arcade kind of score-based game, right? You want every shot to last as long as possible if you're playing it that way, because you want the most points. But if you're speedrunning, you want to ideally actually get the least amount of points possible, ironically enough. Because that means less waiting around. Ideally you want to hit the fewest pegs possible, because every additional peg you hit is going to be more time wasted. It's kind of funny how
lost that level. I had to do some really risky. Was
it a 9-2 or
9-2? Yeah.
Yeah, 9-2. It can sneak up on you. But yeah, so I am on Cinderbottom now, and so Cinderbottom is one of the ones where I feel like his levels can be pretty tough, but he's also one of the characters with the most time save potential, in the sense that, like, hypothetically, the floor for how much time you spend on his levels is pretty low, can be pretty low. If you're really good with Cinder, you could beat every single level of his in under 30 seconds. Is that ever going to happen in a live run? Probably not, but hypothetically, it is possible.
Yeah, it's possible, but unlikely because of all the different generations you could get and all that.
But because of the fact that his fireball just tears through everything. So here, I'll grab this fireball here. I only have a couple left, but what I can do is, normally, I might not be able to get both these at once. Do something like that, burn through them, and it also doesn't take any extra bounces beyond the ones at the bottom here.
I just remembered some, because there's the whole thing about incentives, and I was thinking about because that last level I almost full cleared it, and I was thinking, what if an incentive was to full clear levels?
Okay, that could be, honestly. We should think about something like that. But no, Cinderbottom is I think most of the top runners would consider him the quickest power, in the sense that if you really play him well, that the potential for time save on him is quicker than probably any other master, any other Peggle master. The only one that comes close, I would say, is Tula, probably, right? It's one of those things where it's hard to debate what is the best Peggle master for speedrunning, because there's a lot of variance per level, right? Certain levels really favor certain characters.
Yeah, so there's the NG plus run, which has its own sort of competitive scene. It's especially with like the top runners, they really enjoy doing NG plus. That's where you get to choose whatever master you want for each level, which means you can choose like the optimal master for each level, or what you think is like the optimal master.
Yeah.
And so you'll find this.
Yeah,
you'll find that there's like a lot of levels that Tula is really good for, like usually ones with lots of circular pegs. But then ones with bricks are often better for Cinder, because it gives him a bigger hitbox for his fireball.
Yeah. I just shredded 9-3, which is nice, because this one can be quite tough.
Yeah.
This is one that is really tough when you do individual master runs, where you use characters, a specific character for the whole run. That's one of the tougher ones, because all the bricks that it has blocking things. But with Cinderbottom,
it's built for Cinder to tear through with his fireball.
Yeah. Yep. And that's how a lot of the levels are, is obviously built for the character that you play them on, or play on them. And one of the reasons that the individual master runs can be a bit tough at times. So, I'm on what I call the donut level, because it looks like a bunch of donuts. And I'm doing okay with it.
I'm on 10-1 now, and this is one that can be a really hard level if there are pegs underneath this moving piece in the middle.
Yes,
thankfully managed to get rid of all of them, but if you have, you get to the end of the level with one ball and then you've got like 2 of them underneath that, it's really hard. You usually have to like bounce into them from the sides.
Yeah. So this level is one that is, the final Cinderbottom level is one that is a little tricky, but there is actually a few sets of strats.
Yeah, they've been sort of, they've like had it evolved over time. Quicker and quicker.
Yeah, I came up with some of my own at one point, but then they've kind of been phased out in favor of some better ones that were created by Faux Passerby.
Yeah.
And I use those now, because they are much better than the ones I used to use. That's the thing, is like, for a lot of the levels in the game, and many other of the top runners have come up with their own strats, but many times other people will find better ones. And lots of times the people who find those better strats, I just shredded the level, by the way, which is pretty satisfying, because this one can be tough even with the strats. A lot of the strats have been found by not top runners too, which is something that's, I think, pretty cool as well. Is that pretty much anyone can find strats. And yeah. So this level is, again, Britshaw's already gone past this one, it sounds like, but 10-1, the first one of Master Who, is pretty tricky. Luckily, Master Who's power is, I would say, again, arguably one of the best in the game. Well, it's definitely one of the best in the game. But he is, I think a lot of people consider him to be the best one in the game. It kind of depends on your perspective. I think for newer players, he's definitely the best.
Yeah, for newer players, he's the best, but like the other ones are better when you're better at the game, because you can use their skill to, like, they're more technical, and require you to kind of use them correctly.
Yeah, and so what he does, what Master Who does, is he essentially, he has a Zen shot, and his name is, well, Master Who, because he's an owl, and he has a Zen shot that is essentially, you aim the ball generally, but then you have a kind of like aim-assisted shot that prioritizes points. It doesn't actually prioritize necessarily orange pegs to be cleared. But it prioritizes. Okay, ooh, had to focus for a sec. It prioritizes points, and generally orange pegs are worth a lot more points than blue ones. So generally, it means that he's still going to help you out a lot on actually clearing levels. And if not, even if it doesn't necessarily help you directly with clearing the level, lots of times you'll get extra balls back from the point buildup. So very, very helpful power. Again, one of the strongest powers in the game for sure.
Did you mention that he will favor the point boost though?
Yeah, so because of the fact that he favors points, the pink point boost peg is almost always what he will go for, like over anything else almost. So
yeah, so
you
he
do have
can
to
get
be
distracted by it.
Yeah, he can get distracted, is a good way of putting it. But he's still definitely a very strong master, one of the best powers.
I'm just finishing 10-4.
Okay, I am on 10-2, so I'm a couple levels behind.
I'm on what is considered one of the worst levels in Peggle.
Yes,
between both games.
Britchard is on the infamous Zen Frog. Talk about. I mean, I feel like for anyone who would be watching, it would be pretty apparent why it's a bad level.
Yeah. If you're watching this, you can sort of see already why it kind of is awful. So whereas every other level has sort of a layout where you can line up shots and things, bounce off things in a way that you can sort of determine. Here it's just complete randomness. Everything is constantly moving. Like every shot is different.
Yeah.
Like you can't make openers for it because every frame there's a different sort of layout.
Yes. Yeah, people have in the community off and on this topic. The topic comes up of like tassing the game, like finding a tool-assisted sum of best, right? Hypothetical. The problem with that is for levels like Zen Frog, where every single peg almost is moving, and that leads to a situation where you have literally millions and millions and millions of potential shots. Because even for a single frame of the level, right, starting out the level, there's already like tens of thousands of possible shots. Because every single peg is going to be hit a little differently with a different amount of momentum. It just, and that's not even considering the fact that there's going to be different loadouts. You might get a much luckier layout with the oranges. You might get a much worse one, right? Tassing this game is not something that anyone has actually even tried, as far as I know.
I would like to point out I just beat Zen Frog first try, which is nice.
Okay, that is nice. That is, yeah. Even for top level runners, Zen Frog is basically a coin flip, and we kind of colloquially call it that in the community.
Although I did manage to save it with the power of Who, because all I had on the side was like 5 oranges on the right side, and the point boost was on the left side. So I angled my Zen shot towards all those oranges in a way that it's most likely not going to hit the purple. So then, because of Who's power trying to find points, he has to try and... The oranges are the most points in that situation, so that's why he got 4 of the 5 oranges, and then the last one I can just get myself. So that's kind of like a technical thing you can do with masters.
Yeah, so now I am on the dreaded Zen Frog level, but yeah. So real quick though, you should talk about the levels you're on now, since they're a little different.
Yeah, I mean, I've just teared through 11-1, and PoetryStud is actually the one that made the strats for that one.
Yeah. Although others have, I will say, perfected the strats for it.
Yeah. But,
so, yeah, do you want to talk about the master
interesting thing about the master levels is they work in the same way that NG Plus would work, where you can choose whatever master you want. But they are the hardest levels in the game, so...
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, again, there's 55 levels in the game, split into sets of 5, so the 11th set is the final one. So Britchard is actually quite near the end of the game, and the pace is about on par what you'd expect if you're doing a no reset run. Generally, you're going to have a few fails and stuff. It looks like I'm actually going to make it through Zen Frog first try as well. So, so again, that's not always the case. Zen Frog is the most failed level probably for top runners.
Well, in my current PB, which is really strong time, I still had 1 Zenfrog loss.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had it with, I'm going to beat it with 2 extra balls even, which is not always the case. Lots of times it comes down to the wire. But yeah, no, so the master levels, yeah, are also some of the trickiest ones here, and you do get to choose your masters. So I'm going to do the strats that I kind of helped to create, although with a lot of help from others. I'm considering resetting because my strats are actually going to get messed up, but it's also kind of a really good generation of this level. And I'll talk about why in a second.
VP Soup was saying that an incentive would be to showcase the 11-4 down shot, which is something.
Yeah.
Should I showcase
there are, I would say something like that. There's probably a lot of the like tricks we could do. The other thing is, by the way, this is something that is more meta, but are you gonna try to do the one-shot strat on you know what level?
Oh, or should I?
I was considering. I will say if this, I'll probably, if we do end up running this, I might try to learn it before the actual race.
I mean, I guess I could, because I'm currently ahead, right? So
yeah.
I could always do that while, you know, I'm waiting for you.
What level are you on right now?
I'm on 11-3, which I guess I could also explain why this is kind of a mess of a level to play.
I'm on 11-2, so we're still pretty close even. So.
Oh yeah, all right. But yeah, this one is very tough because all the stuff is underneath these panels here at the top. And you have to shoot for this portal, which then shoots you through this UFO. And you don't have that much control over where it's going to land. You have to sort of be able to judge it yourself. Whereas with
it's very hard to judge the timing on that consistently.
Yeah.
Because you have like to think about the distance it travels before it hits the portal, and then after the portal, and then the angle, all of that combined, it can be kind of a mess. What master are you using? I'm curious.
That one.
Yeah.
That one I use as I feel like most people do.
Yeah, most people do.
Best bet.
Yeah, having the little bit of aim assist there.
Also, I'm on 11-4 now.
Okay, I'm on 11-3 now, so I'm still even with you, somewhat. Well, you're one.
This is one where you'll notice the 2 different strats where I'm using glint shots, where I aim at a specific point on the peg. And it gets quite a bunch of stuff quite quickly. Whereas Poetry will be using a different strat.
Yes, yeah, I will be using a, again, kind of a meme strat in the community now that I stand by. At this point, I probably am going to retire the strats I use on that level at some point, but it's kind of I kind of kept it around longer than I probably should have because of the memes around it, and I'll talk about that once I get there in a moment. I'm on 11-3, and I've got a good start. Actually, quite good. Should
I do the one shot? I'm now on the Helix.
Yeah, I would say go for it if you want to. So
I'll go as Warren then.
Yeah. So Britshaw's on the final level of the game. So if you want to pay attention to him, he's got the Helix is one of the toughest levels in the game because, well, if you look at it, you could probably tell that it is just completely random almost. Of course, the community has found some pretty actually reliable strats for beating it.
Darn it. I've had 3 attempts so far, and none of them, they've all bounced in there, but not stayed in.
Yep. And so one of the really coolest strats, also found by Faux Passerby, who found some of the other strats I mentioned earlier, is that there's a shot that completely clears the entire Helix in one shot. So here's the infamous strat that I use on this level. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 25 taps. And I know my mic is picking up those taps in the live event. I don't believe the mic would pick that up. So
okay, there we go. So that is the one shot.
So yeah, so Britchka has gotten the one shot that pretty much makes that level an instant win.
There is a runner called, Helios WX who can get the one shot a lot more consistent than I can. Still takes me about like 1 in 5 tries to get it. But
yes,
yeah.
And I get it maybe 1 in 20 because I have not practiced it that much. But it's it's one of those things that while you're kind of finishing up, since it sounds like you're about to win, what I will do is I will use the kind of, if you can, sure. While you do that, I'm about to be on the level.
Okay.
And I guess you should probably win if you're not that close. But I will say the strat that I'm going to use is the one that most top runners and runners in general use nowadays, which is to use the character Splork, who is not actually really used that much in like New Game Plus runs, but specifically on this level. So this is again the Helix, where there's a lot of stuff just buried under moving pegs. It's very difficult to get anything consistent here. The strat I'm doing is I'm finding a generation. I'm resetting till I get a good generation for the greens. His greens, as you saw early in the run, explode all the pegs around them. And I'm getting terrible generation. Lots of times you have to reset a bit, but this was actually some of the worst luck I've had. Have you finished now? I'm assuming you have. Okay, nice. So Britshot has indeed won the race. So congratulations to Britshot, and I will hopefully be winning my first try. This is again not the easiest level in the game, but hopefully I can make a good showing here of the Splork strats. So Splork, the alien, with his power, is generally actually the regarded as like the most consistent for beating level, and I'm kind of actually still getting a little bit of bad luck with it. But
I'll just say though that what I just did, you wouldn't do that normally.
Yes, yeah.
Both the things that I did, both doing the one shot and a lot of things, doing the one shot, using Warren, and also full clearing that level. That was just you know, I knew.
And so so I finally, I had my top green. Generally, you want to get both greens in the Helix so that you clear the whole thing. My top one was a little higher than you'd like to see, so I had to kind of dig down for the lower one. It was a little covered. But once you actually saw that once I got it, the rest of the level just came together quite easily. And I have finished. So we both finished now. And this is actually about the time we expected. What was your final time?
Yeah, mine's 1:10:19.
1:10:19. Mine is 1:11:21. So about a minute off.
Yeah,
and
1:10 is pretty much sort of the time of like a sort of more serious runner in the community. That's usually where all the like good players that are like practicing the game and stuff. That's where they're around.
Yep, once you've put in like a few weeks or a couple months of play, you're probably going to be hitting a PB of around this. And again, for just doing a no reset run, it's a decent time. Obviously, I'm about 11 minutes off of or actually 12 minutes off of my PB, and Britshot is as well about 13 minutes. Yeah, so obviously in a live setting though, it's a decent run. So yeah. But yeah, so I guess that's it for this kind of sample test run for the GDQ moderators. Hopefully it seems interesting, and we would love to do something similar at GDQ. So
yeah,
I guess we'll end the recording and this test run here. And yeah, we do need to come up with some incentives, but that's it for now.
I think I had about 3 losses in mind, but I just had a lot of slow down moments as well that added up to the time loss.
I think I had like 5 actually. But yeah. Oh yeah. So I guess goodbye to anyone watching this.
Yeah. Hope you enjoy.